Hello students, good morning. Once again, welcome back to English lecture. Today we are going to learn English Kumar Bharti Unit 4, lesson number 4.5. The name of the lesson is The Old Man and the Sea, written by Ernest Hemingway. Before explaining the lesson, The Old Man and the Sea book review, first let us learn what is a book review. A book review is a form of literary criticism in which a book is analyzed based on content, style, and merit. A book review can be a primary source opinion piece, summary review, or scholarly review. Books can be reviewed for printed periodicals, magazines, and newspapers, as schoolwork, or for book website on the internet. Now we have learned what is a book review. Now we will learn what are the parts of a book review. Suppose if your teacher asks you to write a book review, you may think that all you need to do is provide your opinion of a book. However, this is not the only information you will need in order to write a successful review. A successful book review includes a short summary of the book, background information about the author and topic, and an evaluation of the content. When writing a short summary of the book, assume that your audience has not read it and address the book's main topics and ideas and explain why they matter. Next, when covering the background of the book, research the topic even if the book is a work of fiction. For example, if you are reviewing a novel about slavery, research and compare historical information with the author's approach to the topic. If it's a non-fiction book about slavery, then compare the author's argument and use of evidence to other published works on the same topic. You will also want to include some information about the author, which can help your reader understand the content, especially if it's a work of non-fiction. For example, what are the author's credentials of his or her influence or beliefs? Finally, conclude the review with your evaluation of the book. This isn't just your opinion, it's your assessment or the book's strength and weaknesses and how well it met its objectives. However, book reviews can include personal opinions, so be sure you know whether or not this is part of your assignment. If it is, explain your reason as well as your reaction to the book and avoid oversimplifying them. Statements such as I don't like it are not informative. However, something along the lines of I don't like the book because it is a stereotypical biased story about these people with no supporting evidence is more convincing. Now we have learned what is a book review and the parts of a book review. So now let's begin with the lesson. So before moving to the explanation part of the lesson, first let me introduce about the author. The lesson The Old Man and the Sea, a book review, is written by Ernest Hemingway, who was born in the year 1898 and died in the year 1961. The Old Man and the Sea is a short novel which is written by the American author Ernest Hemingway in the year 1951 in Cayo Blanco, which is in Cuba, and it was published in the year 1952. It was the last major work of fiction written by Hemingway that was published during his lifetime. One of his most famous works, it tells the story of Santiago, an aging Cuban fisherman who struggles with a giant marlin far out in the Gulf Stream of the coast of Cuba. In 1953, The Old Man and the Sea was awarded the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction, and it was cited by the Nobel Committee as contributing to the awarding of the Nobel Prize in Literature to Hemingway in the year 1954. Let's begin with the lesson. The Old Man and the Sea tells the story of a battle between an aging, experienced fisherman, Santiago, and a large marlin. The story opens with Santiago having gone 84 days without catching a fish and now being seen as sallow, the worst form of unluckiness. Here, the word sallow words comes from Spanish word that is salado, which means salty. Sallow is used in the context of a fisherman being unlucky. Next, the word marlin. Here, marlin means a type of large fish. He is so unlucky that his young apprentice Manolin has been forbidden by his parents to sail with him and has been told instead to fish with successful fishermen. The boy visits Santagio's shack each night, hauling his fishing gear, preparing food, talking about American baseball and his favorite player, Gio DiMaggio. Here, the word apprentice means a person who works for another in order to learn a trade. So, who is the person here? The person is Manolin, the boy Manolin. He is working for whom? He is working for Santogia, who is a fisherman. For what? For learning a trade. Which trade? Fishing. And the word howling means to put something with a lot of effort or difficulty. Santagio tells Manolin that on the next day he will venture far out into the Gulf Stream, which is in north of Cuba in the states of Florida, to fish, confident that his unlucky streak is near its end. On the 85th day of his unlucky streak, Santiago takes his skiff into the Gulf Stream, set his lines, and by noon has his bait taken by a big fish that he is sure is a marlin. Marlin means a type of big fish. Unable to haul in the great marlin, Santiago is instead pulled by the marlin, and 2 days and nights pass with Santiago holding on to the line. Though wounded by the struggle and in pain, Santiago expresses a compassionate appreciation for his adversary. Often referring to him as a brother, he also determines that because of the fish's great dignity, no one shall deserve to eat the marlin. On the third day, the fish begins to circle the skiff. Santiago, worn out and almost delirious, uses all his remaining strength to pull the fish onto its side and stab the marlin with a Santiago uses all his remaining strength to pull the fish onto its side and stab the marlin with a harpoon. Santiago straps the marlin into the side of his skiff and heads home, thinking about the high price the fish will bring him at the market and how many people he will feed. On his way in to shore, sharks are attracted to the marlin's blood. Santiago kills a great mako shark with his harpoon, but he loses the weapon. He makes a new harpoon by strapping his knife to the end of an oar to help ward off the next line of sharks. Five sharks are slain and many others are driven away. But the sharks keep coming, and by nightfall, the sharks have almost devoured the marlin's entire carcass, leaving a skeleton consisting mostly of its backbone, its tail, and its head. Santiago knows that he is destroyed and tells the sharks of how they have killed his dreams. Upon reaching the shore before dawn on the next day, Santiago struggles to his shack, carrying the heavy mast on his shoulder, leaving the fish head and the bones on the shore. Once home, he slumps onto his bed and falls into a deep sleep. A group of fishermen gather the next day around the boat, where the fish's skeleton is still attached. One of the fishermen measures it to be 18 feet, that is 5.5 meter from nose to tail. Pedrico is given the head of the fish, and the other fishermen tell Manolin to tell the old man how sorry they are. Tourists at the nearby cave mistakenly take it for a shark. The boy, worried about the old man, cries upon finding him safe asleep and at his injured hands. Manolin brings him newspapers and coffee. When the old man wakes, they promise to fish together once again. Upon his return to sleep, Santiago dreams of his youth of lions on an African beach. Now we have learned the summary of the story, The Old Man and the Sea. And now we will learn the second part of a book review, that is social or historical contest. Hemingway's novel is based on real events and it also draws heavily on his own life. He had experience of fishing in the Cuban waters, and like the old man, he was also a fan of baseball. He worked for the Red Cross during the First World War and was injured by shrapnel when he was in Italy. Hemingway always talks about the need to struggle against defeat or death and how determination and endurance can help one to win in this struggle. The old man is at the end of the novel very near death, but we know that the story of his suffering and loss will live on in the memories of the people of his village. Ultimately, his story becomes one of triumph because the tales of his life will live on even after his death. The novel was published in 1952 when people were trying to recover from the mass destruction wrought by the two world wars, and this tale of endurance and ultimately triumph immediately struck a chord with the readers. While writing a book review, the writing style of the writer should also be written. Here, in a book review of The Old Man and the Sea, the writer Hemingway's, what is the writing style of the writer Hemingway's? Hemingway's language is simple and pithy. He mostly writes in short and straightforward sentences and practices an extreme economy in his use of words. This simplicity is deceptive, and a reader can read his work again and again and find new layers of meaning every time. While writing a book review, the last step is you have to write about your thoughts regarding the book. So here, the what is the thought? That is my thought. I first read this novel years ago when I did not understand it at all and was left unimpressed. In spite of this, a vivid image remained with me. An old man holding on to his fishing line with the last of his strength. Recently, I read this book again and was extremely moved. The formidable strength of the old man's character, the quiet devotion of the empathetic Manolin, and the relationship between the two are heartwarming. Hemingway's descriptions of the sea and the creatures of the water are beautiful. The marlin fights for its life separately, and it's hard to know whether our sympathies should lie with the old man or with the marlin. But as the novel progresses, the old man and the marlin are inseparably linked because both stand for the same ideals, that is, a noble struggle against destruction.